What's going on, everybody? Welcome to our third video in collaboration with ABC, inspired by the new show Fresh Off the Boat.
So in case you guys didn't know, Fresh Off the Boat already premiered on ABC. So today's video is going to be about specific scenes or themes from that episode that we particularly relate to.
Leenda, what'd you think about the first episode?
No, I really liked it. It was like so relatable. I was like watching myself, basically.
Yo, the first episode was crazy. It was just weird seeing people that look like me on TV, on the main stage, ABC.
I thought it made history because that was the most in-depth content you've ever seen on primetime television about the Asian American experience. They were making jokes about Xiaolong Bao, they were speaking Chinese in it, and I was like, to me, it was a little mind-blowing.
It is noteworthy, the spot that we're at today.
We're eating steak right now in the name of Eddie Huang's dad's restaurant that he opened up in Orlando, Cattleman's Ranch Steakhouse.
Welcome to Cattleman's Ranch.
All right, guys, so we all saw the first episode of Fresh Off the Boat, but let's talk about specifically what from the show that we related to.
In the big picture sense of the story, a lot of it's driven by the fact that Eddie Huang is this young kid who's moving to Orlando and growing up in school as one of the only Asians, and I think that that's an experience that we all relate to. So immediately, right off the bat, that relates to me more than any show that's ever been on TV ever in history of Western media. I remember when they were talking about the food that he brought and stuff like that. For me personally, I never brought traditional food, but that's because I knew the environment that I was in would definitely react similar to the way they did in the show.
I was in Vancouver, there's a lot of Asians, and then I had to move to somewhere else where the Asians were a minority. So fitting in was so different. Just like Eddie in the lunchroom, I didn't know where to sit. I really wanted my parents as well to kind of buy me Western food so I can fit in, because all the cool kids had Western food.
It's so funny, as a kid, one of the status symbols is what you brought to lunch. So I remember I did go to school with some Asians, like Richie, but not a lot. So when I went to junior high, it was only like one other black kid, and then me as the minorities. I definitely gravitated toward that black kid, just like Eddie did in the show, and trying to connect with him on a hip hop level. And that's kind of what happened to me, because I was really into hip hop, and I knew the black kid probably was too. We connected on that level as minorities into hip hop, even though I wasn't black.
Adapting to new environments.
The next thing that was a big theme of Fresh Off the Boat was name calling because of weird Asian names.
Name calling. So last name is Dong, and when I was in grade 5 going to the school where there was not a lot of Asian people, I was made fun of so much, like Dong Along, or like Linda has a dong, or like Ding Dong, and it was like, oh my god. And I don't know, growing up now, like I still get it till this day.
Hey Linda, knock knock. Or actually meant ding dong.
Oh wow.
So our name is Fung, and Fung is also a goofy name.
And you know what the funny thing is, when you have a goofy name, it's not just the kids, it's the teachers. So you have authority figures. They would be like,
Funga bunga langa tanga banga.
We get called fungus all the time, or fungadung, or fungalung.
I would prefer to be called feng shui. Like, give me something more, the more respectful kids that thought of me as cool, they would say that, but everybody else.
Fang lang bang dang dong.
A lot of Asian names are one syllable. Short. And it's really short, so it's easy to say.
Andrew Fung, David Fung, Linda dong.
Maybe it's not a goofy name as it is a fun name to say.
She always said it.
Yeah.
That's actually what happened to Eddie in the show. Eddie actually has a Chinese name to begin with. He gave himself the name Eddie like the first day of class in his new school.
I thought it was funny when the teacher said, thank God.
Hey, it was kind of funny though, I'm not gonna lie, when the white kid was at the table kind of making fun of him, he's like,
Hey you guys, Ling Ming brought worms.
because it was funny because he just slipped it in. He didn't just say, oh, Eddie's got worms. He had to hit him with the Ling Ming. One of the scenes that really stuck out to me in my head, and I related to it, was watching my mom try to fit into like the white neighborhood that we lived in.
I definitely think anytime that, a stay-at-home mom moves into a new neighborhood, there is a pressure to buy in a little bit.
Not that it was like a huge battle, but I felt like that was a great way of introducing the whole family. It wasn't just Eddie, it was like the dad, the mom, and the kids.
You're right, showing the mom perspective is kind of funny.
Yeah.
I remember the ladies in my neighborhood used to meet in the middle of the cul-de-sac, and my mom was kind of like always the odd one out. Obviously my mom's not a native speaker of English, and she's trying to like be in the thing like,
Oh yeah, you're planning the yard sale.
She would put on her best white voice that she could at the time.
Can you do an impression?
Oh yeah, the kids really love playing together in the front. Yeah.
And she's shorter than everybody too, so just,
Yeah, yeah, the grass sure is green, yep.
she's just trying to relate to these people, and I saw that a couple times, but I gotta give my mom credit, because she had pressure to do that too.
One thing I definitely relate to is how Eddie was the middle child. I was like the middle child too. And then it's kind of funny in the show the way they engage with each other, because my sister's quiet, just like Emery's quiet in the show. Evan was like Andrew in the show, where he's like too young to communicate at that time.
I do think the youngest usually adapts easier than the oldest. Richie, you have a lot of older brothers and sisters.
I do. A lot of my, upbringing was from my older brothers and sisters, and they kind of put me on game when it came to like sports teams and school. So they kind of schooled me to the game, and I was really lucky to have that.
Between being older and younger, you really experience like the difference in culture shock. Because sometimes when you're so young, you don't understand the culture shock. But if you're older, then you're going through that culture shock yourself.
I think something that's so central to Eddie Huang's perspective, especially young Eddie, is the hip-hop influence that he has. He's wearing Notorious B.I.G. on his shirt, to quote his mom.
You wear all these black men on your shirt.
I definitely relate to that, because growing up, we had a cousin that introduced us to hip-hop, and I felt like it was so empowering, especially as a minority that didn't feel represented. Hip-hop meant so much to my identity. It still does. So definitely shout out to young Eddie for showing that side of young Asian kids, especially the guys who get deep into the hip-hop culture.
For me, my mom didn't want me to listen to any rap music. Their music videos, the girls are always wearing like really skimpy outfits and dance, like, dressing like that. And so my mom was just like, you're not gonna listen to rap music because you're gonna turn into that and you're gonna do drugs and alcohol.
I think on the West Coast especially, rap music, Dr. Dre, Tupac really helped spark the AZN Pride movement. Because the AZN Pride movement was all about being super proud of being Asian, AZN, not caring about what other people thought. Growing up, we caught the tail end of that scene.
Pretty interesting in the show how they made it every 5 to 10 minutes. Eddie would reference a line from a rap song, and I thought that was pretty interesting because it helped him, go throughout his day and help him with certain situations.
What also goes to show you how deep he was in that. He just wanted to repeat what he heard. Like,
I'm just trying to get a nut. I'm trying to get respect.
I don't know how much he said that in real life, but in the show it's funny.
One thing that stands out to me is, even though Eddie's experience was kind of reflective of elements of our own upbringing, I do think a lot less kids in modern day times that are like 12 years old right now are going through the same thing.
Well, just in terms of numbers, in the past 15 years, there's more Asians.
Right, more Asians in America, more Asians in media, more Asians on YouTube. So there are more Asian faces that these kids can relate to and become empowered by.
I think a lot of us could relate to Eddie's experience. Definitely time has changed and everyone's more accepting.
I think if you were an immigrant kid growing up in the 90s and early 2000s, you are going to relate to that show a lot.
And remember, watch all new episodes of Fresh Off the Boat
Every Tuesday at 8, 7 Central on ABC.
Thank you so much for watching our video about the themes and how we relate to the first episode of ABC's new show, Fresh Off the Boat.
Until next time, we out.
Peace.